Several years ago, Marvel canceled the Fantastic Four comic. Uh, there were talk at the time that this was in retaliation from Mike Perlmutter to Fox, who was casting a Fantastic Four with a African American, with a black Johnny Storm, and that this was, kind of his way of hurting them or try to screw them over. Why did the Fantastic Four get canceled exactly? Later we heard, hey, it's important to put some of these titles on the shelf, get them freshened up again, and then they come back strong as a strategy from Marvel. That seemed like crap at the time. What's the real truth with the Fantastic Four and what happened? Hey everybody, this is Perch. I could swear I covered this video topic, but as we've crested 1,000 videos plus, I feel like I'm going to start repeating myself. I don't know. If anybody wants to come in and help me out sorting through all these videos and kind of getting them back into place, that would be awesome. If anyone wants to volunteer your time, please reach out and that'd be great. But we're talking to Fantastic Four, and this is one of those cases where there was a lot of kind of basic truth, and then the whole topic got convoluted and mixed up with a lot of additional crap that wasn't really necessary to sell the story, but it made it a little bit more spicy, and then that got to be the kind of the rumor that everybody was fighting off and trying to defend. So to give a perspective, to take a step back, Jonathan Hickman is on Fantastic Four, and he's having himself a fine little run. And he's geared for bigger and better places. He's targeted to the Avengers, so he steps over there. But as part of doing the Avengers, he's doing the New Avengers, which at that point was dealing with the Illuminati, and Reed Richards was a part of that council. And the Fantastic Four get pulled into this storyline pretty heavily as we head toward Hickman's endgame, which was Secret Wars. So, at the conclusion of Secret Wars, which was really, in my mind, a Fantastic Four story, I know that lots of people, but it really came down to Reed and Doom and Evil Reed, and kind of the Thing had some big moments. I mean, it was a Fantastic Four story, I think, very, very much in this comic. And so, the comic ends, and the kind of the word comes out that the Fantastic Four are going to be, going away for a while. Reed and Sue Richards are off in the multiverse, and they're off, having some fun doing stuff, creating galaxies with the Molecule Man and their children. Ben Grimm and the Human Torch are back to Earth. Ben Grimm, I think, is that the point where Ben Grimm, I think, starts to hang out with the Guardians of the Galaxy, but not really. I think that was going on at that time, and then Johnny Storm was banging Medusa over in Inhumans in a, kind of one of those stories that pretty much everybody tries to forget. But that's what's basically going on, is that the Fantastic Four, for all intents and purposes, as an ongoing comic, goes into a hiatus. And at the time, in particular, Bleeding Cool was running a lot of stories talking about Ike Perlmutter and kind of his war on properties that Disney didn't own. In this case, the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. And certainly the X-Men were deprioritized for Inhumans and other things. And so the element of truth there, what we do know is true based on kind of direct comments from people who were in charge of those decisions, is that there was a directive brought down to say that the titles that we own, meaning Disney, the titles we own are the ones we want front and center. We want the Avengers. We want, those comics really at the core of what we're doing. So put the marketing dollars there, put the bigger talent there, and we really want those books to be the big ones. And it makes sense. This is not a revenge fantasy. This is pretty straightforward. Hey, we make money off of Marvel stuff, and we make the most money off those properties, so focus on those properties. Not a big surprise. Some have gone into somewhat of a convoluted scheme of, well, at the time, Disney was using this as one more way to kind of hurt Fox so that it would be easier to pick up those properties and buy them later. I don't have a lot of faith in those rumors, and for one simple reason. if you were going to try and hurt another kind of multi-global entertainment company, and you were going to try and drive the price down so you could buy it on the cheap, my attack would not be through comics. Comics, it represents a speck on that entire thing, and kind of the orbit of hey, this is going to be our strategy for how we're going to tank Fox by not putting out a Fantastic Four comic. I mean, it's not going to matter. So the Fantastic Four movie does come out, and Michael B. Jordan, I believe, is not I believe is the Human Torch, and that had some controversy. It's like, oh, you race swapped one of the characters. Now, what's interesting about that is that I think Jordan did a fine job with the role. I think that he was a perfectly fine Human Torch, and and everything else. I think he did a good job. The movie itself was bad. I mean, it's funny because people come to defend it, much in the same way that I think people come to defend the Ghostbusters Answer the Call, the all lady Ghostbusters, and it's like, but the story itself was bad. I mean, the movie. Forget you could put in Lady Ghostbusters. You could have put all guys in there, and with the same story, it was a crap story. It wasn't a good movie. Is the problem. And the same thing was true with Fantastic Four. It's like some of the actors in that were good actors, but the movie was terrible. I mean, the plot. I mean, the stuff with Doom. I mean, all in all, it was not a good movie. So we can spend our time arguing over kind of the race swap and some of these other pieces, or the gender swap. But if the movie sucks, the movie sucks. I mean, you're kind of at that point you're complaining about something downstream. It really doesn't matter anymore. I found, and I had a good argument, by the way, with somebody who's like, I really hate, or not. One guy was saying, I thought, the women deserve a chance to be the Ghostbusters. Another person was saying, yeah, this was wrong. They're trying to do gender swapping and everything, and they're having a good old fight in my shop. And I'm like, hey, but the movie sucked, right? It's like, oh, they kind of argue a little bit. And then they're like, no, the jokes were bad. If you picture the original Ghostbusters in that movie telling those jokes, it was bad jokes. Anyway, I've gone off track. At any rate, the point is, Fantastic Four movie came out. It didn't do well. It wasn't the fact that there wasn't a comic around to support it was irrelevant. Like, you could have John Byrne. Yeah, what I think probably the best Fantastic Four run. It's kind of a toss up between the Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and then the John Byrne Fantastic Four. And I did like the Hickman run, but those two runs were pretty epic. You could have those runs going on simultaneously. Like, have two Fantastic Four comics coming out in a month. One Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, the other John Byrne, and that movie still would have sucked. And so it was not the greatest comics in the world. Would not have helped make that movie more money. So, but it is true that Marvel was basically saying, hey, we have, our limited budget, our people, whatever else we're going to put, the best foot forward is going to be the foot we own. And so that's what they did. So they took those comics away. They canceled it. In the case of the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, they just completely sabotaged from within, it felt like. And the result was the comic sales suffered. Things went down. Now, Marvel, for a long time, denied any of this. And now, of course, they are, because the Fantastic Four is a license. And if Disney, the company, had public statements floating out there of like, yeah, we canceled these comics because we're not going to support these people over there, they'd be in violation of terms of their license. Now, the license, as we clearly see, because lawsuits weren't flying around, the license did not preclude that Marvel had to keep publishing a Fantastic Four comic. That probably would be a good thing to put in the license contracts if you had it, but it didn't have it, and so Marvel was within their rights to cancel that comic, and Marvel didn't get sued, but it wasn't a good. It basically, they didn't do anything to help. It really didn't matter in the grand scheme of things, and it's not more really dramatic than that. Now, what got reported, because the original story was reported and got some pickup, and it's like, well, you got to keep. There's really not more news when it's like, hey, Marvel is going to decide to promote the things that they have direct ownership for. That's really all the news you've got. But the news sites decided that we need more news than that. there wasn't any. So then that's where they started pulling in things like, Ike Perlmutter is a racist, and because they had Jordan cast as a Human Torch, he's trying to get revenge on them because they're not all white, or those kinds of rumors and stories began to float around. Those were not true. They're irrelevant nonsense. But Marvel, on the other hand, when they were asked kind of directly about this, they would give the reasoning of, hey, we do this all the time. If a comic book is kind of stale, then we'll put it on the shelf for a while, wait until the demand heats up, and then we'll put that book back out again. And they pointed to Thor as a book where this happened. And then they pointed to X-Men as a book where this happened as well, which was a really weird one because that they're talking about the pre-giant size X-Men, and nobody can say, hey, there was a build demand strategy at play there. With Thor, probably not either. It was between runs; they didn't quite line up, and that's why you had a gap. That's the boring answer there. I don't believe for a split second that Marvel was like, oh, we want to put this on the shelf and let it breathe for a little bit and get the demand really high, and then we're going to come back bigger and brighter than ever. Because when they did come back, they went with Dan Slott, Sarah Pichelli. Pichelli stayed on for like half a second, and then we had some other artists go kind of in and out of the book, and the title itself has wandered. Now, there's some people who like Fantastic Four, that's fine, but it hasn't had its breakout storyline. It hasn't had its big kind of moment. Even Empire was, that's not a Fantastic Four story. They were Fantastic Four were in it, they were contributing, but it really, the problem with, I think it's a problem with Dan Slott as a writer, is he doesn't write things that have big, memorable, like this is a big ass story. Arguably, like folks like Jason Aaron have too many of those. They have so many, it starts to erode kind of what they're doing. But in terms of the Fantastic Four, there hasn't been one. So they built up demand, if you believe it, and then they came back, and then here's where it's at. And the comic is really pretty much in the same spot that it was in before the hiatus. Nothing has really changed in all that. So, it's kind of a long video to kind of explain a pretty basic thing. Marvel decided to not, promote things that they didn't have ownership to. They didn't promote those things, and then some comics happened. that's pretty much it. It is interesting. I think that in my view, if a publisher is wanting to maximize their revenue to the places that are going to earn them the most, I think that's a perfectly normal thing to do. I don't think there's anything weird about that. I think that's pretty much standard business. So I don't think that's this kind of weird terminal sneaky shenanigan thing going on. I think it's just business. But anyway, that's the basics. There's not too much more to it than that. What else? The news sites were reporting that Ike was having the pictures of the Fantastic Four taken down around the Marvel office. Okay, sure, if you say so. There wasn't too much more than that. There's your story. So what do you think? Is there more to it? Ask questions. Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe. Would you do this if you're running a company? Would you remove a property because you were making more money or not making more money? Let me know. I'm happy to. I'm curious what you would do. The businesses are businesses. They're designed to work at a profit. So these things aren't the weirdest things in the world. Anyway, like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, follow me on social media, send me an email, but most importantly, thanks for listening.